About making more and better followers. Whether your church is a mega, multi, or a mini, the reality is that God is using each of these models and the people in these churches to advance His kingdom. God is the one who calls us, gathers us, shapes us, and sends us out again, regardless of the size or structure of our church. In addition, He is the one who owns the church. The church, in all of her shapes, sizes, and models, and with all of her flaws and unusual fragrances, belongs to Him. Jesus paid the redemptive price for a people who would reflect the radiance of His glory and the reality of His presence to every tongue, tribe, and nation. Matt, Hugh, and I agree that the church needs to become more missional, that we need to learn how to make more and better disciples, and that we need to do a better job of scattering our gathered bodies back into the world, a world that desperately needs to know the truth about God. We do all of this to reach the nations and bring glory to our redeeming God. That's the message of this book. These two missional leaders have provided a resource that will help followers of Jesus, church leaders, and local churches learn how to better express the missional movements of gathering and scattering in the body of Jesus Christ. Consider the biblical principles and practices they describe as they flesh out what God has been doing in their lives and the communities of Adullam. Then decide what thoughts, ideas, and strategies God might want you to use in your life as a follower of Jesus and in your local church context. My hope is that God will help all of us learn and grow in our understanding of the redemptive movement of God as He gathers and scatters the body of Christ in the days ahead. I hope, too, that His name and fame might be exalted among the nations. Ed Stetzer, President, Lifeway Research, www.edstetzer.com.
Introduction. What is with the church? How many times has your heart asked your head this question? As I write this, I'm flying home from a week's journey in Scotland and Ireland. Matt and I spoke to collegiate groups, missionaries, new church leaders, and students at a number of Bible institutes. About half the leaders we spoke to work in more formal ministry settings, while the other half were just simple blokes, peasants, business leaders, and pub dwellers. We traveled there to talk about the church. As we cautiously tiptoed into their context to offer a bit of our wisdom, I found myself struck by the irony of two greenhorns from the States trying to explain church to people who have been recovering from ecclesial traditions for 10 times as long as my country has been in existence. Edifices and symbols of Christendom tap you on the shoulder at every turn and whisper words of warning. Like many Americans, I can quickly dismiss it as a different culture and think, no, that can't happen to us. But this time it was different. I've been increasingly disturbed by the reality that the American church has its coordinates locked in on being culturally negligent and irrelevant. I envision a future where the spiritually hungry look everywhere but the church for help, where the church becomes like the Salvation Army, and the culture tolerates our presence as long as we are content to collect a little spare change and help a few homeless, where we become a defensive minority political force instead of a blessed army of soul changers, where we continue to be known for what we don't do instead of what we are doing for the greater good of humanity. Taking my church consultant hat off for a minute, I'll also acknowledge that one of my main concerns is for my own children. I wonder if my daughters, who are now 14 and 15 years old, will be able to find even a glimmer of hope in the idea of church. Or will they be in the same situation as the students in Glasgow, Scotland? In a city of almost 1 million people, the local leaders in Glasgow can only think of a handful of churches that have any reasonable witness, and the largest church is around 100 people. In the once spiritually vibrant Scotland, as we worked with local leaders, we often spent our downtime relaxing in 2 churches. But these weren't places of worship. Both buildings were built as Reformed enclaves in the 15th century.